Donald Trump is crashing in the polls as even his former top supporters are screaming betrayal. Earlier today, Donald Trump announced that he was going to bring in massive amounts of foreign beef to crush and harm the U.S. beef industry because Donald Trump has screwed up all levels of the economy, and it's one massive Ponzi scheme now. Meriwether Farms, who have previously posted very positive things about Donald Trump, they're an American beef company. They're all about American first beef. That's actually their slogan. They posted betrayal as Donald Trump earlier today says, "I've concluded a deal to substantially lower the price of ground beef. The United States will allow up to 300,000 metric tons of product for ground beef to be imported with no out-of-quota tariff." Donald Trump, one by one, getting rid of his closest core supporters. You take a look at some of the recent polling data, it just gets worse for Donald Trump. The current polling U.S. Senate model, and I've seen this across the board in the top models, now have Democrats picking up a total of 52 seats, with Republicans being at 48 seats. It seems like a massive opportunity here for Democrats to take control of both the House and the Senate. And MAGA Republicans are particularly freaking out about the recent results in the Pennsylvania House State Representative District special election for House Special Election District number 12, where the Democrat there overperformed by plus 19. It was a plus 18 Trump district that swung 19 points in the Democratic direction right over there. You have Kevin McCarthy, former Speaker of the House, a failed Speaker of the House for the MAGA Republicans, who was forced out by his own party. He says, "We don't have a message. We're going to get crushed in these midterms. What the heck is going on?" Watch what Kevin McCarthy says on state regime media Fox. Let's play it.
How do you size up the midterms right now?
The midterms right now, I'm worried because the generic ballot's over 6. So that's advantage to the Democrats. I'm worried that I'm not seeing the clear message from Republicans. What is the plan of why you should stay in the majority? What is your economic plan going forward? What are you touting as the successes that you've had already? I'm worried about certain states. I'm going to watch Iowa. Yep. I think that governor's race very close. Ashley Hinson is the best Senate candidate probably in the country. I think she ends up winning. But we've got 4 congressional seats there. When I first came in, we only had 1 Republican one. There are going to be some tough. Pennsylvania is going to be a swing state. Democrats have a very good governor. They'll probably try to run the tickets up because he wants to run for president. I'm worried about Arizona because I don't think this Republican nominee we have, Biggs, could actually move out, could cut across, get moderates and others. And we picked up seats from Democrats to win the majority. If he underperforms, he could cost us Congress's majority.
So then on state regime media Fox Business, they were interviewing Indiana Senator Jim Banks. No mention about the horrific weather conditions over there and that tens of thousands of people in his own state remain without power. No, Donald Trump ignores that, whereas any past president would actually focus on that. But what Jim Banks wanted to focus on is nothing to do with the questions being asked, which is, how do you think the conflict in Iran is going to affect the midterms? Because prices across the board are going up, and the American people are struggling. Listen to what he says. Let's play it.
Grandkids.
We do, of course, have a midterm election coming up. And the question is whether all this can happen before the midterms, whether voters will see some signs that we've turned a corner in ending this conflict. Even the Iranians, by the way, are now referring to the midterm elections. They know that the president and Republicans are particularly sensitive about how all this could affect the midterms. How do you think it's going to affect the midterms, assuming we don't have a clear resolution at the time that they happen?
Well, I give President Trump so much credit because he doesn't look at this as an election issue. He looks at this as a long-term ensurement that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon ever pointed at us or at Israel, our allies, or our troops abroad. And some things are more important than elections. So
I got it.
President Trump is always
But again, the election is coming, and there are a lot of Republicans who are concerned about being reelected or going against a competitor. How do you think the war is going to play into the elections?
Well, I think we got to bring gas prices back down, and we got to get the economy moving and the housing market moving and the quality of life for all Americans to continue to improve. And there are lots of good signs in the economy that is happening. And the good news is that immediately upon striking a deal with Iran, gas prices will plummet and Americans will feel better from it.
Well, we've seen that happen before when it appeared we were going to come to a resolution. But
so then state regime media is forced to bring in like analysts from the UK, Corbett Dillon. He's on state regime media, and they're having people from right-wing UK politics trying to scare people here about socialism. The hell is even going on? Play this clip.
Yeah, well, look, I live in Washington, D.C. I hear what people are saying here, and I understand. I know a lot of people are disappointed with the Republican Party. Even President Trump himself is pretty annoyed that they can't get the SAVE Act passed. He hasn't been able to deport as many people as he wants. But my concern is that, particularly the young men, if these young men check out, you might be looking at a Democrat takeover of the White House. And we say Democrat, what do we really mean? These are socialists. This is exactly what we're looking at. And that is what happened in Europe. The takeover is very quick, very rapid. And if you think the border was open under Biden, wait until these socialists get in. They will flood the country with these people. It's the only way they can get power. They need these people to rely on government handouts to put them in the country. They'll do a mass amnesty. Everyone will be citizens. It's what we did in England. Every one of these people are becoming citizens. It's a real problem, and I'm scared. We're running out of places to go. Where am I going to move to next if America becomes socialist?
And all the while, the American people are saying, we see our debt now increasing over $40 trillion. Didn't Donald Trump and Elon Musk say that Doge would slash $2 trillion? And now it's over $40 trillion. Where's our money going? Oh, wait a minute. A new Israeli Air Force Boeing 707 was just replaced by the Boeing KC-46 Gideon. Oh, that's where our tax money, more to catastrophic and unlawful wars, more to slaughtering people in Iran. What the hell is going on here? And meanwhile, you have Treasury Secretary Besson flailing. He's doing Japanese yen bailout schemes, bond buyback schemes. You have CENTCOM out there going on. You have CENTCOM delivered a message, I kid you not, to CNBC this morning, lying about the amount of oil leaving the Strait of Hormuz, trying to manipulate the market that way. The American people see what's going on. The American people see the ultimate betrayal. And we are seeing massive movement in the polls that has Trump and MAGA panic. I want to bring in Jim Messina of the Messina Group to help break this down. You're not going to want to miss this. Here, let's play it. Now I want to bring in Jim Messina, CEO of the Messina Group, former campaign manager for former President Obama's 2012 campaign. Before that, the deputy chief of staff for former President Obama. Jim, it's great to see you. I want to break down the Democratic overperformance we saw yet again on Tuesday. We've been seeing this trend now really actually start January 30th, 2025. I was noticing some of these special elections over there, and I was looking at interesting places in Iowa. And then I saw a few months later in Pennsylvania had some specials. And then we've been seeing this Democratic overperformance from even the polling data, and not little overperformance. I mean, we're talking about 10, 12, 14, 18, 22 points. A lot of people are focused on Donald Trump, endorsed candidates not doing great in the Republican primaries. But I say, look at the data in Pennsylvania House District 12, where there was a 19-point swing in that district from a Trump candidate who was a plus 30 before that, actually, to the Democrat winning. And the Democrat was running on kitchen table issues. We're going to fix your potholes. We're going to focus by government. We're going to talk about education. And the Democrat won a plus 19 swing there. A lot of people are saying that this could be like 2018, but I know your thesis is, I think that it's something bigger is brewing. What do you make of it, Jim?
Yeah, look, Ben, thanks for asking. And before we start, I just want to say thanks. You guys built what the Democrats spent a decade wishing existed. An operation that punches back every day, that doesn't wait for permission, that meets the moment at the speed it actually moves. It's why I wanted to come on. So thank you. Now to your question, Rick, I'm a numbers geek, right? I spent my whole career looking at the numbers, and the numbers are super interesting. Democrats have overperformed in special elections across the country, in over 100 special elections, all the way from congressional races to city halls, by 12.8%. Why is that so important? Everyone's talking about 2018. I really think we're looking at more of a 2006 election. And the reason why that is so important is because in 2006, we outperformed Bush's numbers by 13.5%. It's really a similar thing. They had a second term, very unpopular president. We started to really get together on an economic message that mattered, and we overperformed by 13.5 points. That allowed us to stun the world and take back the United States Senate and the House. People thought we were going to take the House, but they thought the Senate was too much of a stretch. And we won in states that were big surprises, like Virginia, which at the time was a red state, hadn't elected a Democrat. My home state of Montana, I was involved in that race with John Tester. And so you start to look at these numbers. Just take the legislative races. And I, like you, looked very closely at the Pennsylvania election the other night. Across the country, we've now we've flipped 41 Republican legislative seats in special elections. Republicans have flipped zero since Donald Trump put his hand on the Bible in January of 2025. And when you look at why, it is the thing that is uniting the Democratic Party. Doesn't matter what side of the Democratic Party you're on, we're all in that Donald Trump has made life too expensive. The word expensive is the most important word we can use. Priorities USA, which I used to chair, just did this massive look at everyone's search, what people are searching. They're not calling it affordability. They're not calling it cost of living. They're literally typing in their search engines and saying, why is everything so expensive? Why is gas expensive? Why is home heating expensive? Why is buying a new car so expensive? That word expensive has now become the most important thing we can talk about. And it's why we're overperforming in these elections. And if we can do that in the way we've been doing it across the country, then the United States Senate is in play again in 2026. We're going to have to win the U.S. Senate, Ben. We're going to have to win states, at least 2 states where Donald Trump won by over 10 points. Maybe it's Iowa. Maybe it's Alaska. Maybe it's Texas. Maybe like 2006, it's all of them. And to do that, you need to really overperform. You also look at some of these results, and why we're winning these elections is all about enthusiasm. It's all about turnout. It's all about Democrats overperforming. We're overperforming what the models say we should be overperforming by about 10 points. People are voting that we don't think are going to vote. When I run races, when I ran Obama's campaign, I didn't care about the polls because we trailed Mitt Romney until the very end. I cared about enthusiasm. Are my voters more enthusiastic than Republican voters? And right now, on the very enthusiastic metric, Democrats lead by 20 points in the Ipsos poll out this week. 20 points. That starts to become wave-like material, Ben. Sorry for the long answer to your short question.
I like long answers. I like data geeks. I like this interview. Feel free to go on and on and on, because I think it's helpful to hear that historical perspective. And now it seems Republicans are like that basketball player when you play defense that can only dribble right. They've got one move. And so you go, all right, I know your move. And their move right now heading into this election is a move, to use another basketball example, I think is getting swatted down and rejected. Culture wars. They want to do the culture war, and they want to talk about Sophie Cunningham and WNBA, which is nice to my basketball analogy. She got fouled hard. That's what Fox is talking about. It's like, and somehow we're supposed to be angry about these things. They're creating boogeyman, and, you hear MAGA Mike Johnson, communism has never worked in the history. And so it's going to be, they're coming to get you and they're coming to kill you. And the American people are like, we don't even know what are you talking about? Okay. Things are too expensive. My life is being screwed right now. And then I was watching Lindsey Graham's sister, at her debate. And yes, she didn't know what Taiwan was and it was horrible. And they doubled down on it. And it's the most embarrassing thing. But what was almost even worse was the answer that was given by Ralph Norman in the debate also, where Norman was like, and that's why we're so powerful, because Trump's policy is working. People are like, it's not working. And worse than Graham's answer there. And she's like, and you didn't support the big, beautiful bill enough. And everyone loves the big, beautiful bill. And I'm like, that's a disastrous bill. What are you talking about? The American people hate this thing because it's ripped away their health care. It's shut down rural hospitals. It's made things more expensive. And they go out acting like this is a victory, like that we're all thriving. And the people like, we're not. That's what they're running on, that this is amazing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Look, I love the sports analogy that you use because it's the right thing. They have one play. And they're just going to play the play over and over and over again. And that's culture war, right? They go right back to it. But we all know that games evolve, like teams evolve and figure out new plays. And that's what the Democratic Party has done. The Democratic Party did exactly what you want them to do, which is look at what people's lives are and say, how do we make them better? It's maybe different recipes, but it all comes from the same place. Mondani's talking about cost of living and expenses the same way Mikey Sherrill is, the same way that our candidates across the country are. It's about meeting the moment. And to your smart point, Ben, Republicans are not meeting the moment. They're going right back to culture wars, and they're trying to defend their dear leader. Because, there's one play in Republican primaries, and that is just try to be the most Trump, and that's the way you're going to get through the primaries. The problem with that play is eventually you get to a general election, and dear leader is now wildly unpopular, especially with swing voters. And at the time, 78 days yesterday before the election, when any competent White House would have had the president of the United States, the way I would have done it when I was in the White House, you would have put Barack Obama at a warehouse, at a factory, at a place talking to normal workers, talking about expenses, talking about what he's doing. What did dear leader do? Dear leader then toured with reporters his ballroom and complained the entire time about how the Supreme Court needs to let him build his ballroom and how great the grass is and how he got free grass from Scott's and everything was great. Like, this is 78 days before the election. They are just tone deaf and they can't do it because they have nothing to say. All they can do is run back to the big, beautiful bill, which, by the way, the policies in that bill now have over 70% of Americans saying they're terrible. Why are they terrible? Because voters are going back to school and they know that school is now double as expensive as it was before because of the tariffs, because of the war in Iran that they started for no real reason and no way to get out. And so people's lives, to your point, are suffering, and they're starting to say, okay, I'm going to send a very clear message at the ballot box about my unhappiness. And the way they can do that so far has been in these special elections and these primaries. The one number that really didn't get looked at the other night was in Wyoming. I'm talking to you from my home state in Montana, and next door in Wyoming. Wyoming is the most Donald Trump state in America, voted for the biggest percentage, and he still has the highest approval rating in Wyoming of any state. He endorsed a candidate for governor even before she announced. He campaigned for her. He sent out a couple truth socials for her, said everyone needs to support her. 70% of the party voted against her. She got 30% and got buried by double digits. This is what is starting to happen in his own party. And if you think it's bad in his own party, you wait till November.
Right. And there's the expression that, everything seems to be happening then, everything happens all at once. And it doesn't. There are trends that we have been seeing. And so when the midterm comes, when a result happens the way I think we perhaps expect it to, although shouldn't get complacent, people need to be following these trends. And one thing that I think people are also deeply distressed about is just the authoritarianism of this Trump regime. That's why I call them a regime. In your op-ed, Trump's GOP ditched federalism. Red states will pay for it. And, I think about the Tea Party. I think about the "Don't Tread on Me" flags. And I think about that mantra. And I do think that the idea of "don't tread on me" is indeed embedded in the United States. But it was co-opted by the ultimate treader, I mean, Donald Trump literally is a treader. He says, I'm going to put ICE and Border Patrol Gestapo not to actually do Border Patrol, or I'm going to freaking torture you, and I'm going to run my own paramilitary or military brown shirts in your community. I'm just going to tread on you and destroy your communities. I'm going to impose my will on you. States' rights don't matter. And then I'm going to sign my stupid name on everything, and you're going to see my face just like Mao and just like Stalin everywhere. You're going to see it on your money. You're going to see it on your national park passes, and you will. And people are like, what the hell is this? And and this is what I think Senator Ossoff does a great job, and some of the candidates that are winning. It's not about just saying how awful these things are, or Trump's going off with Natalie. Everyone's missing. He's doing that while the American people are suffering, while people are getting screwed. He's doing these things, and this is what the American people are suffering. So I just wanted you to talk about that before we go.
Yeah, look, I think you're exactly right. I think what we need to do, and Ossoff is doing it as well as anyone in the party, is tie his actions directly to why voters' lives are more difficult. And I think that is the key in this election to make sure people understand. But your point about authoritarianism, I wrote this op-ed because I spent my whole career arguing with Republicans who generally believe in this concept of federalism. Get Washington out of the way, let the states lead. They quoted it like scripture, Ben. And that party's gone. The people running Washington, Donald Trump is now the most aggressive centralizer of power in American history. You talked about some of the examples. Troops into American cities over the governor's request, overriding local immigration policy and saying, no, you have to do it this way. And on an issue that I'm super passionate about, I grew up poor. I grew up as a Medicaid kid, as a CHIP kid. On Medicaid, they aren't just overruling the states. They're taking the power away from the states to govern themselves. And the people that are most harmed by that are normal voters, especially in these red states. Dr. Oz's agency took the one beautiful, shitty fucking bill and wrote a rule that implements it. And they cut Medicaid by another $500 billion by their own math, by one executive fiat. There's no way they can do this. And I think in the end, hopefully the courts will stop them. But when you look at who lands the hardest on, it's his own best states: Alabama, Mississippi, Utah, Texas, Florida, states that didn't do Medicaid expansion, but they still had to take care of their kids. And so they did it different ways. They did it with property taxes. They did it with provider taxes on local hospitals and providers. And instead of, so if you have governors who are now in these states, they have two choices. They can gut care for the people who most need it, or they can raise your property taxes in the middle of an expense crisis. And so the people who are going to really suffer are these, low-income Americans that voted for Donald Trump, and he doesn't care. And so he's letting his TV evangelist, Dr. Oz, pass a new rule that cuts another $500 billion. It's just scandalous. And all these people that spent decades of my life on Capitol Hill lecturing me about federalism are now saying, no, we need to do all this because Donald Trump should get to do what he wants. Well, guess what? The people that voted for you, the people that you profess to care about, are the people that are the most suffering. And it really is authoritarianism at its very, very worst.
Jim Messina, thanks for joining us. We hope you'll place your next op-ed on the MeidasTouch Substack. And so it's a open offer there. We appreciate you, Jim Messina from the Messina Group. You could all check out that op-ed as well. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thanks very much.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers.
Before you go, our book, WTF America, is available for pre-order now. It's the story of how we got here and how we fight our way back. To pre-order, scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this. Before you go, our book, WTF America, is available for pre-order now. It's the story of how we got here and how we fight our way back. To pre-order, scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.